Hi everybody, Adrian Plass here.
Yes, and Bridget. Hello.
Hello.
What number are we on?
On number 259. I do check nowadays because I've got it wrong a number of times, but it is
it's a pretty silly number.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure we'd keep going if we do have some lovely encouraging letters and emails
We have some
just saying
wonderful
keep
ones,
on.
yeah.
So we will try to. I'm sure there are some people shouting at their phones or their whatever they're listening
Surely
to.
Not.
But thank you, those of you who are writing these little encouraging things.
There probably are a
Just
number of
keeping us
people
going.
who either don't listen because they can't stand it.
Yeah, well, we won't know about them.
Or listen because they can't stand it.
Well, that's right.
I mean, and I would like to say to those who enjoy being annoyed by us that, well, you're very, very welcome. And I hope you enjoy it.
I mean, it's been that sort of a week, hasn't it? Despite everything going on in the world, which is still going on and nothing seems to be resolved. It is the end of the football season, and it's also the end of various championships. I can't actually keep up with them all, Adrian. There are various
It seems
European
so complicated
things.
at the moment. I remember one of my sons could reel them off, I'm absolutely sure, but I certainly can't. I can't keep track.
No, but
at
it has been, again and again, there seems to be news of people who are, I mean, for example, I know Chelsea have just won a trophy, and talking to people in the street afterwards is what really struck me, Adrian. There was one woman said, I got time off work. My boss gave me the time off, and it's been crazily expensive and it's been just ridiculous, but it's the happiest day of my life. I think that really struck me. I thought to be in a crowd where you're all really going for the same team, and then you turn out to be part of the winning team.
Yeah.
And on that day was the happiest day of her life.
Why is that? Is that because it doesn't happen much, or is it just an instinct in everybody that it's wonderful to celebrate, to make a noise, to enjoy?
I suppose it's partly
I
there.
don't know.
My feeling is it's just being on that side every now and then, and most of us don't really feel on that side all that often. And of course in Liverpool, and I'm sure wherever you live you might have seen reports of this. It was because Liverpool won the Premier League, didn't they? And
Yes, they
it
did.
was their victory parade through the streets, and there were thousands of people there. And I should think it was a bit like that, Adrian, on what we would now call Palm Sunday. Crowds and crowds of people celebrating Jesus coming through on a donkey. Probably not that different, really, although there wouldn't have been flares and
Why do you think they were
and-
celebrating those people, I mean?
Well, they were there for the Passover, which was a fun one, wasn't it? It was a fun festival. So they'd gone for a fun time, and here was apparently, even if you didn't quite know much about it, and I'm sure there were many people in the crowds in Liverpool who had nothing much to do with the Liverpool football team, but had joined in because it was fun to be there. And of course, as many of you will know, it ended up not being fun. And a man who was, we know very little about it except alcohol and drugs have come into it, and he drove his car into the crowd. Unfortunately, from what we can gather, nobody's actually died, but there are some pretty horrible injuries and a lot of fear and confusion. But that sense of elation is something that, when it's real, it's wonderful to see, isn't it?
It is, and I mean, I'm not one who is easily kind of drawn into leaping up and down.
You
as
can't
you know.
say, really, Adrian.
But,
is that really so?
But I do. I have certainly been in situations where I've been really glad to be one of a group of people who are happy about the same thing, and that doesn't happen that often, really. So yes, I do understand that.
But I mean, I was thinking when I was watching some of these things, it's probably why. I mean, some of the big Christian festivals, and there aren't so many now, but where you're with, again, hundreds and thousands of people all believing the same thing, all singing the same thing. It feels as though you're all on the same page. Now, of course you're not. But in that moment, You feel you are, and it gives you a sort of confidence.
Yes,
but when you
does,
go away from that, you're not on the same page. You are you again, and you have all the things that have just been waiting on the edge to come and overwhelm you or encourage you or whatever.
I do remember.
So is it not a reality?
I don't know. Well, sometimes, of course, it is. Yeah, I mean, if it's real, it's real. Whether it was negative or positive, it's real.
So is it that it's real because in that moment it's real, and that's okay? I mean, I sort of think it is that you can't.
Maybe it is.
I think the danger comes when you try and hold on to that feeling and try and whip it up in yourself. When that isn't what you're feeling.
Or because of what other people are expecting you to do, you mean? I do remember being in, for instance, Norwich Cathedral, which, as you know, I talk about cathedrals as though I keep them in a drawer in my house. One of my favourite cathedrals is Norwich Cathedral.
You keep saying one of my favourites. I think you're going to have a list at some point.
Yes, yeah.
Number one
of my
number
many
10.
favourites. I remember being there, and suddenly, because it's a beautiful place, and beauty always makes me emotional, because it's beautiful, and because the singing was incredible, and because the sensation, the feeling, the atmosphere was so vibrant. I thought I actually wouldn't mind putting my arms up here. I haven't put my arms up in a Christian event until since probably 1964.
And the irony is, you'd have probably been the only one doing it,
because
well, exactly, it wasn't that sort of an atmosphere.
And they'd probably said, "Oh yeah, now we'll do that," because but it was just. And I was just, as you said that, I was trying to think what made that happen then. I felt so excited, but it was a combination of things, and I have felt the same thing, sitting like a corpse in a meeting or something. That same excitement, but it just doesn't come out in the same way. But yes, I mean. It's a fantastic thing for people to be able to do that.
One of the things I was thinking watching these crowds again was that they were all ages and all types who were bound together for a few moments or an hour or two. Well, I was thinking of the football celebrations, but obviously you could associate it with all sorts of things. But I think it was just that crowd thing. I don't know. I wonder if, often I would say it was connected with youth, because a lot of the things that, certainly within the church, where things take off in a big way, they're the big churches that attract lots of young people simply because that's the way you're made when you're that age. You know, that's why rock stars and all the others become so huge, because people want to go to big events where they can be sort of submerged into a crowd of people and release part of themselves. And I think that's fine. It's when it's not happening and somebody's trying to make it happen in you.
You do know, don't you, that you're going to be attacked on the pavement by elderly people who love getting excited in
No. I can get that as well. But I was actually meaning it's that. Well, okay then. It's the youthful part of yourself that responds, if you like.
Yes.
If it's real, if you're caught up in something. But I mean, we've known situations where there's a whole crowd. Well, maybe it implies in other situations, but certainly in the church, where there's a whole crowd of people not feeling very caught up for various reasons, and the person who's at the front desperately wanting us to celebrate.
Yes,
come on, we've got a lot to celebrate. What are we celebrating? Well, we have. I mean, we have the biggest winner of all, if we believe it, don't we? I mean, it's rather a big win that Jesus did, but on a particular day we might not feel like that. Well, and it is a danger.
And it depends why you have gone somewhere. I mean, thinking back to one meeting I was at, where it was a men's meeting, and I can't know how many, probably a couple of hundred people there, something like that. I was just a bit of it. I just did a little thing, couple of things in it. But there was a long, what is called a worship session. I mean, there's a lot of singing and stuff, and a lot of people being called to remember a list that was then quoted of the things we should be thankful for, and therefore should be celebrating. Only problem with that is that if you say, I'm going to allow people to come together in the hope of meeting God or ever, because I am in trouble over this, that and the other, various things, and I'm hoping to find help. To have to assent to the fact that you've got the things you haven't got, you've got to celebrate it, does create problems. And those people probably would say, I would love to spontaneously be.
Well, and maybe in that moment they did feel it, and then afterwards felt really desperately uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah,
they'd in a way told a lie.
Yeah.
Do you remember the little song that a friend of ours told us about his child? In that song, you know the actual song. Come on, let's celebrate.
Yeah, well, of course.
What was it this child thought it said?
In the children's activities at church, of course, often the children are in a side room, and they're making things and gluing things together and activities.
Making things and gluing. That's about it. Yeah.
So their connection with what's sung about in the body of the church is not always completely understanding. And one should, I can only quote, this child was singing lustily, "Come on, let's sellotape and string," because those were the nearest words that they could were approximately the same as what they were hearing.
But in a funny way, I think that's where I am quite often. I know about sellotape, I know about string, but I don't know about the mystery of this whole extraordinary thing that we believe without knowing. So in a sort of way, I think it would be more honest for quite a lot of us to be singing, let's celebrate sellotape and string. Things that you can do things with. You can stick things with sellotape. You can tie things with string. Do you know what I mean? That I think for a lot of us, that's where we are really at the sellotape
we should write a chorus
and
about
string level.
Anyone who wants to see a religious event reaching heights you would never dreamed of, just put into your whatever it is you put in your Google thing or whatever, little girl with a very loud voice at a school service, and you'll see a little girl who has obviously been told she is to sing as loudly as she can, and get the words out.
Yes,
and my goodness, she sings it. And everyone around, including, you can hear the mothers in the foreground laughing hysterically at this. Yeah. But this child has is aware of nothing about that. She's been told to sing. And she doesn't just sing. I mean, she bellows. I never heard anything like it in my life. But it brings such joy to everybody. The other children looking at her and some of the adults listening to her. It was wonderful. But I mean, it might have been a bit off track, but I should think it was very entertaining to the heavenly host.
Yes, I'm sure they absolutely loved it.
Bursting out with this.
Yeah. Do see if you can find it. It makes us laugh every time.
Yeah, just put in little girl with a very loud voice into school, singing a song at school.
And Adrian, without putting the name of celebration onto something, there is something about a room full of people laughing. It's a wonderful thing. It's a celebration of something that God put into each one of us, which is a sense of humour, a laughter, a wanting to, and the more people laugh, the more you want to laugh. It's like when people are yawning. The more people are yawning, the more you want to yawn. I think when people around you are laughing, it just triggers off something in you, and for a little while, the rest of the world can go hang itself, really, just for a little while.
I remember when we were, I was doing I think it was just 1 year of psychology and the teacher training, learning about role conflict and the fact that if you go somewhere to be amused by, say, a comedian, the role of the comedian is to make you laugh. The role of the audience is to be amused and laugh. And if that breaks down, everything really does break down. But when it succeeds, you can feel, you're quite right, you can feel people thinking, I'm one of this crowd. I understand what's going on. I'm laughing and it's funny and we're together. And we've seen it in some of the evenings we do where you can do a first half. This happened very strongly somewhere in Scotland once. You do the first half, and some people had come to that clearly to disapprove. And the first half wasn't quite as successful as perhaps we'd hoped. But at half time they went very happy, people who'd come to go.
Yes.
But in the second half, everybody relaxed and we had a great time. But I also remember, now we're talking about this, and you probably remember being at a thing where there was a lady there who looked as though she just wanted to stand and shout at us, you're talking rubbish or something. And when we spoke to her afterwards, it was the exact opposite. She had felt it all and absorbed it all and been glad to be there. But she didn't actually have the means of letting it out. The thing people always say is, why didn't you let your face know? But it's not as easy as that. If you're not made like that, it's not easy. And I do sympathise with that a bit because I'm not a very funny person, but which is ridiculous when you think how much I've enjoyed making people laugh over the years. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what other people feel about when there's a pressure to celebrate and what they really do celebrate. I think for us there are moments when we're with our family, and we're not with all of them very often because they live all over the place, really. But where everybody's laughing, or everybody is just comfy, or everyone is, and that feels like a celebration, really. And then there are times when you can be in a crowd and the opposite can be happening. So, and you can feel the most alone. I mentioned the big festivals. Well, I remember being there when our daughter was just a tiny baby, and everybody seemed to be having the best time, and I was so tired, and so and just pushing this baby around in a pram, feeling not part of things. So, yeah, I think I can remember both, really. But I would be interested to know, because we do have something to celebrate, and we don't need to be in a big crowd. I remember one of your friends, Adrian, who was part of a little community church, a bit ragged around the edges and very good. And he was quite upset when one of the big churches seemed to be whipping away all the young people and they were all having a whale of a time. And it felt like the supermarket versus the corner shop. And I think sometimes there are, we can celebrate our community churches and our community time and the cafes we sit with people and the friends we have round the corner and people who we're comfy with and who we're comfy to be in their homes or them to be in ours. It doesn't have to. That's celebration as well, I think.
There's no doubt, is there? It's like when you are finally sitting down with someone who you not only like, but who turns you on. Switches you on. Switches the best.
I think you meant switches you on.
Switches the best part of you.
Turns you on means something different, really.
Women
so
who I fancy.
Going. No, keep going. I don't think that's what you meant.
I'm talking about the moments when you're with someone and you relax completely.
Yes.
And you exchange ideas and you laugh and it's or cry
and because you're
or
comfy,
whatever.
Anything could be said, really, and anything could be. You could cry over or laugh over or whatever because it's real. I think that's perhaps real celebration.
The problem seems to come when if there is an outside force trying to make people feel the same, all feel the same, in a situation where they can't quite. And you'll remember years ago we were at a thing once where we went every month, I think, and really enjoyed it. But on this particular occasion, they had somebody who was leading the singing and the worship and stuff. And we were standing behind a row of people who, when everybody sang, they stood up and danced and waved their hands in the air.
Yeah,
which was
they're fine, except we couldn't see the words. That's right.
But
the words were just on one big screen, weren't they? And we couldn't see it. That's right.
But then somebody got up from the congregation, or whatever you call it, and went up to the front and whispered in the ear of the person leading the service, and then went and sat down. And the person who'd been leading the service said, "Someone's just come up here to say to me that she feels that there are some people here who are not freed in the spirit."
It was the spirit of criticism
Spirit
in
of
one
criticism,
corner.
yes. We were the spirit of criticism in one corner.
Well, we were a bit fed up because we couldn't see the words.
Yeah, but we didn't have a spirit of criticism in us.
No.
We just thought we'd just sit down so we could see the blinking screen. But it wasn't only that. It's just that sometimes you're able to get into it.
Yeah.
And that's great. And sometimes you're not. And that should be great as well.
Well, somebody said I remember, and it stayed right in me, Adrian, that worship is what you do with your life. That's what worship means. Worship is not singing. Singing is not worship. It might be. And we've known one or two people who seem to take you somewhere when they're leading the worship and their ego disappears and they're taking you somewhere really, really special. But basically, sometimes it's singing. And worship is what you do with your life. So
what would that mean? And do you mean the way in which you are with people or life or work or whatever?
I suppose. Well, what does worship mean? Putting God first, and so I suppose it's in that sort of area, thinking back to the old thing. What is Jesus doing? So we can join in. I don't know, really, Adrian. I'd really be interested to know what other people think.
I'd love to know how people feel about some of the tensions of all that and the joys of it, and what their experiences have been. But oh well.
And I did love seeing people having such a wonderful, wonderful time when their team won, Adrian.
So do I. No, don't get me wrong.
Just
no, I love it. I don't like things being wrenched into a place where they're not actually there. But yes, where there's genuine rejoicing. It's wonderful. So, let us know what you think. We're just going to go off now and have a little disagreement about things.
No, we're not. We're going to celebrate the moment.
We'll celebrate the moment, yes. Okay. See you next time. Bye.